out there who had Jimmy Garoppolo and then had, well, that's okay. I've got Marcus Mariota as my backup.
Yeah, I've got enough Mariota where that one hurt a little. I'm not playing him, but it hurt a little.
I'm sure there were expletives that, like, what do you mean he's being benched? Shit.
Son of a bitch. I
Well,
did hit the
that's
button. Now we're just waiting.
well, it's like Coach Todd Bowles was like, it's not about fantasy football. It's about winning.
Well, you're not really doing that either. So let me try this.
Ryan has left the known universe. Ryan has returned to the known universe.
Why is this not working?
Are you in interface space and you're trying to go to another universe?
That's not the plan. I can't stop it.
Should I try joining again and you
Well, no, it's just not.
buttoning?
Yeah, it's just like doing the spinny wheel.
Spinning wheels
Let
are
me try
fun.
completely closing out and coming back.
Okie dokie.
Unmute, and it's still doing it.
Do you have?
Okay, now it finally said, unfortunately, we can't start it. Yeah, no shit, you can't start it. I'm figuring that out the hard way.
What is your
Da, da, da.
technical difficulties? Reminds me of a Glenn Beck soundbite that even though he would use it to talk about political stuff, it would be, and it's the soundbite was, it's another isolated incident. It's another isolated incident.
Yeah.
Yeah, because with us in tech troubles. Yeah.
Let's try it again, cause it. Oh, there it goes right away.
Hallelujah.
Greetings and welcome into attempt number 2 of the Sports Shuffle tonight. Technology is about to go crazy. I'm flying Ryan Gilchrist along with, as
Tampa
always.
Motor Mouth, Tampa Motor Mouth Joel Verone. Isn't technology fun at
Oh, it
times?
is. It is also December 8th, 2022. It is week 14, and for those of us who are fantasy football minded, it is the last week of the regular season. All of my wonderful blue check marks behind me are playoff teams. I still have some work to do. None of them have been eliminated, Joel. So far, very good year for me, Joel. I don't know if
Yeah,
yours is quite as good.
16 team is whant whant, so you can
Number two.
just use the flushing sound effect for that one. Other two teams, believe it or not, are still alive. I still actually have a shot to get in the playoffs somehow, even after this fantasy football season that is just absolutely god awful. Because there was a meme representing the fantasy football season, and it was a track runner, and they're like, they're getting ready, they're warming up, they're pointing to the sky and giving thanks to God, and literally like 5 seconds out of the gate, they trip over
Yeah.
like the starting gate. So that resembles my fantasy football season to
Yeah.
a T.
Our 10 teamer, the one we drafted here on the air. Joel and I both have to win to make the playoffs. There's a slight problem here, though. We play each other in week 14. So there are ways that I get in if Joel wins and I lose. But if Joel loses due to the tiebreaker being points, it's going to be very, very, very difficult for him to advance. I've got one where I'm winning in, and I have to beat a team that hasn't won a game all year, so I feel pretty good, pretty good there. A couple others that just basically get the job done, get in the playoffs, and see what happens. Not quite the 12-0 week from the week prior. Let's just say that.
Kind of brutal for picking for me this week. Yikes.
Yeah, bad week for Joel. I was 11-3-1. My numbers are actually wrong behind me, I think. No, they're good. They're good. And Joel was 8-6-1. So I did pick up 3.
Particularly brutal was the late games. I only got one of those puppies right. The Sunday night football, of course, Dallas Cowboys totally, completely stomped.
Yeah.
And Monday night, of course, I was actually happy to be wrong because I was right for about three quarters, but then we'll talk more about that with the recaps. But a very surprising ending.
Yep, and a second tie on the season because we all love
No.
games that basically didn't happen. Ah, boy. So let's start off with some injury news and notes from the last few days. We'll start with Lamar Jackson, a PCL sprain in the knee, out for 1 to 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah,
Big loss for the Ravens.
this one was most interesting because they started off, of course, with, well, it could be days to weeks, and then it definitely morphed into, yeah, it's definitely weeks.
Yeah, PCL sprain. It does not sound like a short-term thing. The Ravens in the middle of a push for that division title. They are tied with the Bengals. So this is not what they need. Tyler Huntley, though, has come in the past, has played well in relief. He could be a fantasy option for you depending on the matchup. We'll get more into matchups later in the week. But yeah, Lamar Jackson, huge injury. Something that's going to be really, really big. Zach Ertz. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. You were talking Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz, torn ACL. It was out. He was out with a knee injury. We knew that he was going to be done for the season, but turns out torn ACL. Very hopeful on his end. He thinks there's a shot he's going to be back at the start of 2023, but he's a little bit older. Tight end is not the longevity position as some others, so we'll hopefully see him back in some form of relevance down the line.
Ken Walker, definitely a right ankle injury awaiting information, so that's pretty big for fantasy and reality.
Yeah, and the rest of the Seattle Seahawks backfield got banged up too. Homer, Tony Jones got banged up. DJ Dallas is out with a high ankle sprain, possibly. So a lot of bad in that Seattle backfield. It's going to go to the passing game this week. So if you have Seahawks, you're probably going to want to play Lockett and Metcalf even more than you normally would because, they don't have a running game right now. Wayne Gallman signed off the street.
And the injury that everyone has heard about nonstop 24/7 last week, of course, has been one Jimmy Garoppolo right foot fracture.
Yeah, broken foot, not a Liz Frank injury. Could be back if they make a deep playoff run. At that point, if you've made a deep playoff run with Brock Purdy, the Mr. Irrelevant drafted quarterback of 2022, then you're probably just going to stay with him because something is working for you at that time. DeAndre Hopkins with an illness, no major concern there. Looks like Brandon Cooks might miss a second consecutive week for the fantastic Houston Texans. Jacoby Myers in concussion protocol. We'll see about him. Somebody coming out of concussion protocol is Joe Mixon. He did miss last week's game. Samaje Perine has been admirable in relief, but Joe Mixon will get that starting job back to himself.
Has there been any word? Because Tua, of course, left the game early for your Dolphins with the ankle injury.
Yeah, they said at the time it was minor. He could have come back in, but that game was pretty much over with the fumble return. So they pretty much just gave up at the very end, the last minute and a half. T. Higgins limited into practice today with a hamstring injury. Tyreek Hill not seen at the open portion of practice today. I don't see an injury designation on it, but that is interesting, to say the least.
And, of course, a huge announcement from the Buffalo Bills, Von Miller is out for the rest of the season with a torn ACL.
Yeah, this is another one that a couple weeks ago we thought, maybe he's going to – I think he was targeting next week as a return week, and now he had to go a minor procedure to repair that. I don't think it was a full ACL tear because they didn't do a full reconstruction on it. But he is done for the rest of the season. That is a huge loss for the Buffalo Bills, who are, of course, in a dogfight with not only the Dolphins, Jets, and Patriots in the AFC East. They are currently in first, but with the Chiefs for the number one overall seat in the AFC. So big impact on that Von Miller injury. No Trevor Lawrence at practice, had a foot injury that looked way worse than it actually was on Sunday, but he says he expects to play. We'll see if that actually happens, but he DNP for the second consecutive day of practice for the Jaguars. Najee Harris did play last week, wasn't great, but he's still dealing with that oblique injury. Deontay Johnson was downgraded from limited to out of practice, so that is something to keep an eye on if you are still somehow playing Deontay Johnson. Some deeper leagues you may have to. Mike Williams was elevated to a full participant today, coming back from that ankle injury. That is a very good thing for the Los Angeles Chargers. Of course, they're playing the Dolphins this week, so timing couldn't be worse.
And a name to keep track of if you have him in your lineup, Foster Moreau is in the concussion protocol.
Yeah, he's almost certainly not going to play tonight. Hayden Hurst is going to be out this week with a calf injury. The Falcons are going to switch quarterbacks and give Desmond Ridder a shot at the starting job. Marcus Mariota has been decent. He's gotten this team somehow in playoff contention, but I think that Bucs win actually is why he lost his job. They're now about a game and a half back with the tiebreaker not in their favor. The Rams are going to go through pregame warmups to see how John Wolford looks. The new guy in town is one Baker Mayfield, who was released by the Carolina Panthers over the weekend, claimed by only one team, the Los Angeles Rams, has a shot to be active, has a shot to start 2 days after being claimed.
What does that mean, you think, for Baker Mayfield's free agency prospects? Next year is going to be a retirement announcement instead.
A retirement announcement for Baker Mayfield?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think Baker Mayfield is more than capable of being a backup. I don't know about a starter. I did hear rumor or conjecture that maybe Matthew Stafford could be eyeing an earlier retirement than he might like. He is out for the rest of the season with a spinal contusion. That doesn't sound like a fun injury to deal with. He's had back problems with his time in Detroit. He is not a young NFL quarterback. I think he's in his mid-30s, 34 or so. So maybe they're trying to audition Baker Mayfield, see what he's got as a talent set. He does not have Cooper Kupp. He does not have Allen Robinson. He does not have Odell Beckham Jr. like they had last year. This running game is not very good. The offensive line is not good. But if they can see some flashes, and maybe if Sean McVay thinks he can fix them, they're trying to get an audition for Baker Mayfield. Now, we'll see if that happens. And again, Matthew Stafford, no decision has been made, but he's not young and he is not healthy. And back injuries are not something you want to mess with.
And you brought up the Odell Beckham, so it's definitely germane to bring up the interesting story. The Dallas Cowboys ended up discovering that his injury had progression has not been as much as he thought it has been, and so there's a lot of conjecture now that he's not going to play until 2023, and we may have seen thankfully, the end of the Odell Beckham World Tour.
Yeah, Odell Beckham Jr. injured in the Super Bowl. That is a pretty quick turnaround on a torn ACL. Would have only been about 10 months from now, or from when it originally happened. So not a surprise. He's not 100% ready to go, but for Odell Beckham Jr. and anybody who picked him up in fantasy, hoping that maybe he would show up this year, you're going to have to hold on to him in Dynasty another year before he's seeing any kind of return. And for this year, he is not going to play, it looks like. Furthermore, DeAndre Swift back on the injury report with an ankle injury. He did play one of his best games all season last week. Michael Carter was out last week with a sprained ankle, doesn't even appear on the injury report, so he's going to be good to go as well. Like I said, Joe Mixon back. Josh Allen still in the injury report, but no real concern to his status over the weekend. And we'll see. Aaron Donald looks like they'll be out tonight for the Rams. It's just not a great situation in LA right now.
Yeah, because I think I'll say that little gem for the pick segment.
All right, so let's go to last week and the week that was. Joel, again, not quite as good in the picks, but it was really down to that late window. We'll start quickly on Thursday Night Football. Bills 24-10 win over the New England Patriots, moving to 9-3. First place all alone on top of the AFC East. The Patriots slowly slipping away. Not a great entertaining game, not a high-scoring game, but Stephon Diggs got the job done for you. But yeah, Josh Allen, a little bit disappointing this week. The Bills, though, this defense is not what you were expecting. I think the Bills are a little overblown.
Yeah, because it's hard to pick against the Bills, but even when you see them win and kind of stumble like that, it just kind of makes you lose a little bit of confidence in them. But I think that they're still the team to beat in the AFC.
Yeah, them, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, and I mean, you can look at the Bengals as well, who seem to be rolling. We'll get to them here in a little bit. Next up, Steelers 19-16 win over the Falcons. The Steelers are 5-7. Don't look now, that never finishing below 500 thing. That may not be quite a given. They have a tough schedule the rest of the way. They still play their division, but the Steelers do get the job done. Kenny Pickett, ineffective, but good enough in this one. Najee Harris not at his best. Really not a lot of good play in this game, if I'm going to be honest. The Falcons fall to 5-8 with a win. They would have put some pressure on Tampa Bay, but they fall short again. Marcus Mariota will be sitting going forward, and it will be Desmond Ridder to see what they've got in the rookie quarterback.
Yeah, because it's interesting to note that the Falcons' backup tight end Pruitt now has the same amount of TDs on the season as Kyle Pitts, too. And the Steelers' O is definitely finding their mojo. And I think I was Nostradamus because I was doing my picks right, I think, at the end of the 4 o'clock games in that window between Sunday Night Football. And I wrote, Steelers O finding their mojo. Is a change at quarterback coming soon for Atlanta? Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, I think this is them admitting they're not catching Tampa. At least in their own minds. I don't think they believe they can get there. All right, next up, Ravens survive the Broncos 10-9.
Wow.
Lamar Jackson leaving this game with the PCL injury in his knee very, very early on, 10 snaps in. But the Ravens have to score in the last few minutes of the game to get the lead. I think it was the last 30 seconds of the game to get the come-from-behind win over the Broncos. Fantasy-wise, if you weren't playing the defenses, you probably weren't happy with anything in this game. Mark Andrews was solid, not great. But just it's tough to really be happy with anything when there's 19 total points scored.
Yeah, because the Denver wide receiver core just banged up. Jerry Jeudy seems to be progressing in the right direction, but then all of a sudden, boom, okay, Cortland Sutton's injured. Yay. They're, as I said, I think last week, they're the 2021 Giants. The wide receivers were always banged up. That has been now past the 2022 Denver Broncos. And
to be fair, the Giants in 2022 have that problem as well.
And so it's just continuing as the Broncos have scored 1.17 offensive touchdowns per game this year. If they finish the season with that rate, they would be fourth worst since, are you ready for this, 2011.
Ooh, that's not a good place to be. Speaking of not a good place to be, that is Chicago. Anytime Green Bay comes to town, I own you. I still own you. Yeah, that one was stuck in my head for a few days. Thanks, Joel. The Bears still suck. The Packers do win 28-19. Aaron Rodgers does not lose against Chicago. I think he's 25-5 if I heard that stat correctly. Christian Watson, 8 touchdowns the last 4 games. They found themselves a gem in the early second round. Unfortunately, it might be a little too late for their playoffs aspirations, but this team does look like they're starting to roll in the correct way. Breaking news. The Rams quarterback Baker Mayfield is not only expected to be active, but will see game action at some point tonight.
Pick the other team.
It's tough. I mean, we'll go to the picks and all that here in a little bit, but Baker Mayfield, who's been in Los Angeles for about 2 days, is expected to see some game action tonight. We'll see how significant that is.
Yeah, it was truly amazing how many people were like, he's going for the 49ers. He's going for the 49ers. And the 49ers is like,
no, we like our guy better.
Yeah, we just signed Josh Johnson from the practice squad. So, yeah, no.
Yeah. Anyways, back to Packers Bears. Aaron Rodgers, one of his better games of the season. Christian Watson, once again, a very good player. Seems like they got a guy. David Montgomery had one of his better games this season, so that's a good thing. And Justin Fields was good, not as good as you may be hoping for, but the Packers come from behind, get a win. They're 5-8, still have at least a pulse in the playoff picture, even though Monday Night Football did not put them on there, but they put the Saints and the Panthers. Again, it's the NFC South, and you had to include everybody, but come on, man, they're behind them.
Yeah, you look at Watson over the past 4 games. Week 10, 3 TDs. Week 11, 2 TDs. Week 12, TD. Week 13, 2 TDs. 8 in 4 games. League winner.
Yeah, he's a league winner. If you're not playing him yet, you're making a mistake, and you're probably not going to make the playoffs if you're not playing your guys like that. Because, hey, we're that time. You got to start thinking about it. Next up, I said Trevor Lawrence was my streamer of the week, and I picked the wrong side of this matchup. Don't get me wrong, Trevor Lawrence was fine, but they lose. The Jaguars lose 40-14.
The Price is Right fail sound. Bum, 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 bum.
The Lions win 40-14 over the Jaguars. The Lions in the last few weeks looked like a legitimately good team. still second place in the NFC North, probably again clinging on to the vague playoff hopes that they have. But DeAndre Swift, best game of his season, maybe outside of week number 1. Amon-Ra St. Brown is an absolute monster. Jamal Williams still getting touchdowns, even though his touch count was down quite a bit. And Jared Goff would have been a good streaming and a better streaming option than Trevor Lawrence, but so be it. For the Jaguars, not a lot of good this week.
Oh, yeah. If you started Trevor Etienne, he was like, didn't get hurt, but didn't do a lot.
Yeah, I think the best thing you can say for the Jaguars this week is when Trevor Lawrence went down and you thought, oh my, that's a knee, that's a broken foot, that's a high ankle sprain.
It's never a good sign when everybody from both teams is in a prayer circle. That's never a good sign.
Yeah, came back out, played in the second half, but yeah, so be it. All right, next up.
From this game, real quick.
Okay.
You mentioned Amon-Ra was a monster. Yeah, 34.6 fantasy points. And DeAndre Swift played 51.4% of Detroit's offensive snaps today. That's his highest snap share since week 8. Always good news, especially if you've had any shares of Swift at all.
Yeah. All right, now we move forward to Deshaun Watson's not so triumphant return to football. I'm going to tell you the final score, and you might think, oh, that sounds pretty triumphant. It wasn't for him. Browns 27, Texans 14, but this was all the Browns defense and special teams.
Started Cleveland's DST, you
31
were dancing all the way to the win for the week.
31 points for the Texans defense and special teams. Dameon Pierce was okay.
Cleveland.
But yeah, for Cleveland.
You said Texans. That's an alternate universe.
Yeah, and then Deshaun Watson, just a terrible, terrible game. And he didn't even look as good as the stat line came in. Not even 150 yards passing. So
yeah, because Amari Cooper was easily his favorite target. He saw 9 of a possible 21 targets for a 43-point target for a 43% target share. And fun fact, if you take away all the scores from the DSD, Houston wins.
Yeah.
That are bad. Not
great. Amari Cooper did pop up in the injury report today, as did Saquon Barkley of the Giants. We'll get more into those later. All right, next up, the Vikings 27-22 win over the New York Jets. The Vikings 10-2 can clinch the division this week with a win or a Detroit Lions loss. They'd be the first team to lock up a playoff spot. The Jets, Garrett Wilson is a absolute beast at wide receiver. He is probably he's one of the several good rookies this year with Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, and Christian Watson being the top of the list. The Jets look like they're better with Mike White, but he did come back down to earth after that monster performance 1 week ago. The Vikings, though, they play the Lions this week. That should be an absolute shootout. They look like they've got the offense going. Justin Jefferson, not his best week, did have a touchdown to salvage for fantasy owners, but you got to expect bigger things to come.
Yeah, because close but no cigar for the Jets, definitely a heartbreak for New York. But they seem like a whole different team with White under center instead of Wilson. So that has to have been one of the best moves of the entire season.
Yeah. Zach Wilson's still expected back at some point. I don't know if he's going to be back in uniform and on the sideline holding a clipboard like he maybe at best should be, or if he's going to find his way back under center. Only time will tell. All right, now we go to a game that basically didn't matter, didn't happen. Commanders and Giants tie at 20. This game in 2 weeks has been flexed to Sunday Night Football, so hopefully it's a little better than this one. It has a conclusion that's not unsatisfying like this one did. I don't like ties. Just play the game until it's over and get a winner. It's not that difficult.
Yeah, because New York definitely got their offensive spark back. That seemed to be missing a bit off from Turkey week. But the pesky Commanders are turning the heads of the conference, and I think the league, because this is one of those rare times you could say a tie could almost be considered a win for the Commanders, considering how the first 5 games of their season went.
Yeah, the Commanders with this tie are the 8th seed, but they pretty much eliminate all tiebreaker consideration because, well, you have a tie now. The Giants, though, still maintain a playoff spot, 7-4-1. The Commanders 7-5-1, and the entire NFC East and AFC East, for that matter, remain in playoff contention. Then we go to AJ Brown, the revenge game that went just according to how he wanted it to go.
Can I toss out a Star Trek quote as Mr. Brown was doing his imitation of Khan. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Is very cold right now in Philadelphia
Yeah.
instead of in space.
Eagles 35, Titans 10. Derrick Henry is on a cold spell. Things will improve with his next few matchups. Don't worry about that. But this week, another bad one. We expected a bad week against the Eagles defense. Maybe not this bad, but pretty bad.
Yeah,
A.J. Brown,
you,
2 touchdowns.
yeah, and a $1.18, and of
Yeah.
course Jalen Hurts was his
Here's
usual
Jalen
self,
Hurts.
$3.80,
Yeah.
4 total freaking TDs, and he was just slinging it all day long against an overmatched Titans secondary. As yeah, they really also humbled the King Henry too.
Yeah, the Eagles against the Packers, 350 rushing yards.
Mm.
This week against the Titans, 350 passing yards. They can get it done in more ways than one. Then we go to a surprisingly close game in the NFC West. The Seahawks 27-23 win over the Los Angeles Rams, led by John Wolford. Kenneth Walker leaving this game. Tyler Lockett, though, with a touchdown, his 5th straight game with at least 1 touchdown. Cam Akers suddenly relevant, 17 for 70 plus, and I believe a touchdown in this one. So his best game of the season without question. And now he gets the Raiders defense tonight. So we'll talk about the game here a little bit, but maybe a sneaky flexible option in Cam Akers for the first time we can say that in a while.
Yeah, because Geno Smith absolutely diced up the Rams secondary. As you mentioned, Lockett and Metcalf had big days for fantasy managers. And the one question is, do the Rams have any sparks left of life left?
Well, they have Baker Mayfield, so no. Yeah, we're gonna.
Is that like sort of like the Grim Reaper, coming in?
I mean, you saw what he did for Cleveland. We saw what he did for.
With like the Undertaker theme in the background from the WWE.
Yeah, it's not a great pickup. I mean, I get it. You get him for free. There is the, hey, you pay him $1.5 million for 6 weeks. If someone signs him in free agency, you have a compensatory pick you can get back, and the Rams need more picks, as we can see by their team. So it's not the worst play to pick him up, even if you're just playing that short term, like, let me throw him a little bit of cash and get a pick out of it game. And maybe, who knows, maybe Sean McVay goes, I can fix him, and actually can. And if Stafford does have a big injury and does decide it's time to hang up the cleats, maybe they get somebody that was, I mean, he did get Cleveland to the playoffs in a playoff win.
Is that like the $6 million man? We have the technology. We can fix him.
I mean, did we expect, let's just be real. When we talk about Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers, did we expect the Panthers to be good regardless of who was at quarterback?
Freaking games. He lasted 6 freaking games with Carolina. Yeah, can you waive me? Yeah, okay, no problem. You suck. But thanks for your contributions.
I don't think he had a real shot in Carolina to be good. I don't know if he's got a shot in LA to be good. But this at least is an offensive-minded head coach. If they see something special in Baker Mayfield, maybe he did. I've heard rumors that during the draft process he was enamored with him, just never had a shot at him.
When your career starts out with your coach being canned within the first 2 games, that's probably not a good sign.
No. All right, we're going to move on, and we're not going to talk about this one very long. 49ers 33, Dolphins 17. Dolphins look like garbage.
Yeah, as you have CMC 17 times for 77 yards, and Eli Mitchell going to IR, and Tevin Coleman not being activated work out well for CMC managers, but we're probably a little bit disappointed he was kept out of the end zone. And you're probably even more disappointed if you were a Dolphins fan. Commiserations, right? I know what that feels like from that Browns loss as a Bucs fan, because that was definitely a game the Bucs should have freaking won.
Yeah, this one was closer than the final score indicates. It was 17-23 with a drive going down the field. Didn't work out. A couple bad decisions late, and then a late turnover getting a touchdown to really blow this final score open. Jalen Waddle left this game with a leg injury. Should be good to go. He was in and out of this game, so that's a big loss. Tua left late with an ankle injury. Could have played, but the game was out of hand by then. It's a tough one. Tyreek Hill still very, very good, which is what you're hoping for. But the Niners, of course, the big news in this one was the loss of Jimmy G. Brock Purdy in relief looked serviceable. I don't want to say he looked great. I don't want to say he looked like the next coming of Tom Brady saving the day on an injury injured quarterback. But the Niners have a great defense. They have a lot of weapons on offense. If Brock Purdy can be the same level of game manager as Jimmy Garoppolo, the season is still going to go the way the Niners are hoping, where you can make the playoffs, make a decent run. Who knows? And again, if Jimmy Garoppolo is good at the NFC Championship game, they're going to stay with Brock Purdy because he's kept them afloat to get into the NFC Championship game. So if you're a 49ers fan, you're looking at this. I don't think you are worried that much about the loss of Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not like it was Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes, who is a game breaker, game changing type of quarterback, or an Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, who can just turn it on at will, it seems like, and get the job done. He's a game manager. He is 10-2 when he never throws a touchdown pass in the game. So you can do fine with Brock Purdy. If you're 49ers fans, I know it sucks losing Trey Lance and then losing Jimmy Garoppolo, but I think Brock Purdy's going to be fine. We'll see about the fantasy implications. It's going to be good for Christian McCaffrey. It's probably going to be good for Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, but we'll see. They're going to have to get the ball out a little bit quicker and be a little bit smarter. That could help overall. All right, then we move to, well, I would say the game of the day. The Chiefs and the Bengals. One of the games we disagreed on here that I got right. Bengals 27-24 win over the Chiefs. The third win in 2022 by the Bengals by 3 points over the Chiefs. Joe Burrow is very good at football, as is Pat Mahomes. But the Bengals, I think the key to this game was they shut down Travis Kelce. Had one of his worst games in the last couple of years. In this one, was shut out, no catches in the first half, ended up with a pretty paltry line, including a fumble late in that game. The Bengals, they get the win. They move ahead of Miami in the wild card standings. Miami is now the 6th seed. Bengals with the tiebreaker are the 5, still behind the Ravens in their division. The Chiefs with this loss fall to the 2 seed behind Buffalo because they head-to-head win by Buffalo earlier in the season. And it's going to be a very interesting race for that number 1 seed coming down the stretch. There's about 5 teams that are in it.
Yeah, because apparently, Cincinnati has their kryptonite is going to Cleveland. Kansas City's kryptonite is going to Cincinnati. They have not won there in a long time. And the streak continues, a very convincing win for Cincinnati. Unbelievable. I think this tends to cement maybe their Super Bowl curse for them is slowly being purged, and the craziness can happen. Maybe they go back and they win because all of a sudden they are just a team possessed. And just think about when all of a sudden they get back to full strength with Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon.
Jamar Chase did play in this game, wasn't 100%.
Bad is good in this case.
Jamar Chase was 100% healthy, but didn't seem like he was quite up to speed. Still very, very good, but I think there's a little bit better he can get in the next few weeks. And Joe Mixon coming off the concussion should be normal Joe Mixon here going forward. All right, next up, the Raiders 27-20 win over the Chargers. Another one Joel gave back to me. The Raiders have the number 1 running back and number 1 wide receiver in fantasy, and yet are 5-7. I don't know how you do that because that means you're scoring a lot of points typically. Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams have been exceptional this year. Justin Herbert, not so much. Does look a little bit lost without Mike Williams. Should be back this week from the ankle injury, but we said that before and he got re-injured. So Keenan Allen, though, a very good target in this game. And Austin Eckler is great as always. But the Raiders have made a nice little run. They've got a couple easy games on the horizon. They could, they win tonight against the Rams. I believe they had, I can't remember who they have on the horizon, but they're not great teams. And then they finish with the Chiefs and the Bengals, I believe. So that's going to be a little rough.
Yeah, because Herbert and the O-line definitely have had better days. This one really hurts on paper. It sort of felt like the Chargers should have won, but they really can let you down in spots when you think, okay, this should be a win for them. And when you're having the fact that Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs combined were 321, and the Raiders 404 yards of offense today, sort of that's like I have a bad feeling about this for the Chargers.
Yeah, next few weeks for the Raiders, Rams, Patriots, Steelers, all winnable games. Then Niners and Chiefs. We'll see what the Niners are with Brock Purdy. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but only time will tell. Sometimes a little bit of surprise with the rookie helps him out the first game, and then you get a little film and it doesn't go well. So we'll have to see how that goes. All right, then we go to, it was a game for 3 quarters. Cowboys 54, Colts 19. It was 21-19 entering the fourth quarter. The Cowboys 33 points in the fourth quarter. Just blew them out. A bunch of turnovers by the Colts, a couple defensive scores, and it was just a really rough fourth quarter for the Colts. The Cowboys 9-3. Elliott and Pollard are absolutely unstoppable as a tandem, and that opens up CeeDee Lamb. Michael Gallup had a massive game. The problem with this is Dak Prescott probably going to blow out a lot of teams. Is not going to have fantasy numbers, but they will get the win. And the Cowboys, after 54 points against the Colts and a great defensive performance, will go to face the mighty, the talented Houston Texans, who just gave up 31 to Cleveland.
Hashtag sarcasm. And this fun graphic from the 33rd team, the Cowboys scored more points in the fourth quarter than 23 teams scored in week 13.
They scored more in the fourth quarter than the Broncos have at any point this season, I believe.
That's not hard to do.
I know it's not saying much, but if you can score more points in one quarter than a team has at any point in any game all season, I'm verifying my numbers are correct because I'm pretty sure they are. If you can do that, that says horrible things about the Denver Broncos for one, but it actually does say something about your team's ability to get the job done. So let's see. Broncos 16, 10, 23, 9, 16, 9, 21, 10, 16, 10, 9.
We're the Denver Broncos customer service. We would like to return Russell Wilson. Is the receipt still good?
That is the worst trade, I think, in recent memory in any sport.
Worst trade ever.
Keep in mind the Seattle Seahawks, who got the picks from that deal, are 7-5 and have a top 5 pick because of the trade.
Yeah, Seattle Seahawks are doing like WWE.
Yeah, the Eagles and the Seahawks could both be playoff teams and have a top 5 pick due to trades from last season with the Saints and the Broncos, respectively.
Yeah, I was listening to satellite radio. There's a quote. I forget what Nathaniel Hackett was talking about, but he was saying something like, "We're not far off." And my response was, "I don't know what you're talking about, but."
Yeah, what? The number 1 overall pick? Yeah, you're pretty far off because you don't have it. Anyways, then we'll go to your your Monday night football game. Joel, I see you're wearing the Bucs hat once again. Bucs do get the win 17-16, but oh boy.
I've got 3 things on this game. So as I'm a Bucs fan. I'm happy my pick was wrong. Although for 3 quarters, it sure looked like the Saints were going to win.
Yeah, the Saints were up 16-3 going into the fourth quarter. Alvin Kamara looks horrendous. Another terrible, terrible week there. Andy Dalton they don't have the deep threat options. Chris Olave, I think, is a very talented receiver, but we're not going to see his full potential with Andy Dalton. The Saints would love to have that first-round draft pick to go after one of these rookie quarterbacks coming out next year, but they don't.
Bullet point number 1 for this game in general, with 6:11 left in the fourth quarter, Saints had a 98.7 chance of winning according to ESPN. That's easy for me to say. English, it's a complicated language. Bullet point number 2, this from Michael F. Florio. This is not Florio from Pro Football Talk. This is a different Florio. As, of course, you mentioned Alvin Kamara not doing well. Alvin Kamara played 60% of the snaps with 12 carries for 26 yards and 2 catches for 11 yards on 3 targets in Week 13. Mark Ingram had more targets. He scored single-digit fantasy points in 4 of 5, averaging 8.5 PPR PPG in that span. But bullet point 2A, of course, Mark Ingram is, I believe, done for the season.
Yeah, partial tear of the MCL on his knee. He's done for the rest of the season, given that's only another 5 more weeks for the Saints.
And bullet point number 3 for the game, fantasy heartbreak if you had Chris Godwin. With 19 seconds left in the game, Brady and Godwin connect for a beautiful go-ahead touchdown. And then, of course, the play is called back with a holding from Donovan Smith. And I can imagine if you had any shares of Godwin, you're going, all of a sudden, you're like, yes, if you needed like 10 to 15 points, you were looking for that Monday night miracle, you were pumped up, you were excited. And then you say, what do you mean it's coming back? Insert many expletives there.
Yeah, fortunately, where I needed Godwin, I get first down points, so I got a win by 1.2 or so points. That touchdown getting called back, though, I know cost some people some weeks. The go-ahead touchdown was eventually scored a couple plays later by Rashad White with 3 seconds left in the game, and the Saints crumble and fall apart once again.
It's like when you're texting them, "Hey, how about that Godwin touchdown? That wasn't," and then you just get back on, yeah, expletive, expletive, expletive.
That's a shame. But Chris Godwin looks like the wide receiver you want for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike Evans, another not
Yeah,
great week.
Is
I think it's the
there
line.
is there psychological? Is there an undeclared injury for Mike Evans? What is his sitch this year?
Well, let's start here. There was a long pass that would have hit Mike Evans in the breadbasket had he not been interfered with for a touchdown late in that game. It did set up the first touchdown to Cade
There
Otton.
was no Marshawn Lattimore this game, who usually covers Evans.
Yeah, there wasn't. Now, I will say this. If he catches that long touchdown pass, we're looking at this Mike Evans game a lot differently. Brady was sacked a lot. That offensive line is not doing him any favors. Tom Brady has always struggled behind a bad offensive line. He gets a little panicked. He gets a little bit of happy feet in him. And he just isn't really comfortable when there's pressure around him. I don't think it sets up for Mike Evans. Mike Evans is more of the deep threat opportunist, whereas Chris Godwin is your slant routes, your short intermediate passing lane pass tree guy. And right now, it looks like they're just better on the same page, and it fits Brady's game a little bit better. I don't think Mike Evans is a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. I think he will have his moments still, especially once they get inside the red zone. The other problem with Mike Evans is the Bucs have been bad inside the red zone. They get inside the 5 or the 10-yard line. They can't get the ball in the end zone. That was where Mike Evans really made up his points with Tom Brady at quarterback.
It's just night and day between Arians and Bolus. Total, complete night and day.
For the Rams, all 3 quarterbacks, John Wolford, Bryce Perkins, and Baker Mayfield are all active tonight. So
have fun, kids.
Get the popcorn ready and spin the wheel. We don't know who's going to play yet, but
yeah, I was going to take Foster Moreau out of my one lineup, but I'm going, it's a 16-team league, so it really doesn't matter.
All right, so before we move on to the picks for tonight's game, let's do the playoff picture for the AFC and the NFC. So in the AFC, the Bills are the number 1 seed due to their win and the Chiefs' loss and the head-to-head tiebreaker earlier in the season. The Chiefs fall to number 2. Not a bad spot. Plenty of time for them to regain that ground. The Ravens, with their barely win over the Broncos, move to number 3. We'll see how long they can hold that there. They move up because the Titans lost. The Titans are the number 4 seed. In the 5th spot, the Cincinnati Bengals in a tie with the Ravens, but lost the first head-to-head tiebreaker when they played earlier this season. They are the 5 seed. The 6 seed as of right now is the Miami Dolphins. They did fall quite a bit because of their loss, but that is because they don't have the tiebreaker with the Bengals and fell out of first place in the division. And clinging to the 7 seed is the New York Jets at 7-5. On the outside, looking in, we're only going to go to teams that are within a game or so, 2 games actually. Patriots at 6-6, Chargers at 6-6 are 8-9, Raiders, Browns, and Steelers all at 5-7. Colts and Jaguars a little bit behind them, and then Broncos last place in the conference. The Texans have been eliminated, so they are last place in the conference. The Broncos still mathematically alive for about 12 more seconds, and that's pretty much it. In the NFC, the Eagles still the number 1 seed, 11-1, no change there. The Vikings number 2 can clinch this week with a win as they play the Detroit Lions. They would be the first team to clinch. The Niners still in the 3 seed. The Bucs still in the 4 seed. No change at the top of the conference. In fact, only 1 change in the conference as a whole. Cowboys remain at 5-9-3. Giants with that tie clinging to the number 6 seed. And the only movement, the Seattle Seahawks jump back into the 7 seed, jumping ahead of Washington, who are on bye in week number 14 with that tie last week. Still in contention. The Lions at 5-7, Packers 5-8, Falcons at 5-8, and then you got the Cardinals, Panthers, Saints, Rams pretty much out of it. The Bears mathematically eliminated already because the Bears still suck. All right, so that is your playoff breakdown for now. So
yeah, and an interesting tweet from Josh Larkey, who is works for the 33rd Team website. Baker Mayfield supposedly learning the entire playbook in 36 hours tells you just how simplistic the LAR Los Angeles Rams offense will be tonight.
Yeah. So let's go to the Las Vegas Raiders LA Rams game. The Raiders with a win. I just said they're not that far behind the Jets as the 7th seed, so still technically in this race. The Rams, though, I believe with the loss would be eliminated, if not tonight, by Sunday. I think they'd be out of it. For the Raiders, you're absolutely not benching Josh Jacobs or Devontae Adams. Again, they're number 1 at the position on the season. The LA Rams defense has not been that fearsome, and probably no Aaron Donald tonight. I haven't seen that come across officially yet. Probably will here in the next few minutes. But that being said, you're going to play both of those guys. Foster Moreau has some potential, and so does Mac Hollins as some deep dive flex options. And if you're really desperate, 6 teams on bye this week, Derek Carr is a good streaming option. For the Rams, Cam Akers is about the best case I can make for anybody. Again, did have his best week of the season last week. The Raiders do not have a great run defense, and I can't tell you to go anywhere else. Maybe Tyler Higbee if you're real desperate at tight end, but that's about it. I can't make much of an argument for any Rams in this game outside of Cam Akers.
Yeah, it's minus basically 6.5 for favored for the Raiders, and 43 high of 43.5 is an over, all the way down to 42.
Yeah, so not expect to be a high scoring game. Raiders a 6 or so point favorite, depending on where you're getting your numbers from. Again, for the Raiders, a bigger game than for the Rams. The Raiders can win, and with the right breaks this week, they could be tied with that 8 seed, and that's a big deal at least at this point. The Jets go down; they're only a game back. So, who gets it done?
Yeah, this one is an easy pick. I know that you're having people out there going, maybe Baker Mayfield can finally turn it around with this Rams start. Yeah, Las Vegas has become a serious spoiler. They should be able to beat the Rams, who lost their main quarterback last year. For the Rams, it really doesn't matter either way. Their season is done. But the most telling stat is when you look at where the Rams defense is ranked in the league. 32nd. Pick the Raiders.
32.
Don't blink, don't think. Yeah. When you're ranked dead freaking last, your team isn't too good.
Yeah, Aaron Donald is officially inactive tonight for the Rams, so Josh Jacobs should have a monster performance tonight. Devontae Adams, frankly, needs more of a target share than he's already getting, and he's getting about 40% of it for the Rams, but he has been absolutely absurd. I think this is going to be a Vegas win. I've seen people talk and say that this is the kind of game Vegas loses. This is the kind of game that, like the Chargers, you think, oh, they got to win this one to keep, and then they blow that one, then they come back and beat a good team. This seems like the kind of game that the Vegas Raiders could struggle in, but the Rams are just atrocious.
Have you seen there was a picture or a meme where it's comparing Justin Herbert's frowny face to Phillip Rivers' frowny face? It sort of seems to be a common trend.
Yeah, it's I think that's just how it is to be a Charger, honestly. All right, so we're both on the Raiders, not going to be picking up any games on tonight's game. All right, so let's go to final thoughts. Joel, last time you told us about lawsuits against mac and cheese, and I think you said you had one that's even more ridiculous than that.
Well, yeah, because I actually have a separate final thought, but I actually have a did they really do that?
Ooh, did you really do that? All right.
Before we do the final thought, as there is a game out there, I don't know if you've ever heard of Star Citizen.
No, I have not.
Okay, it's a game that constantly seems to be getting a lot of crowdfunding. It's playable, but it's not completely released yet from the testing version.
The beta.
The beta. That's why I'm like, English is a complicated language.
That's
like
Greek, actually.
Words exe. Now, they actually have, and this isn't available for everyone. It's not available for everyone. It's not available for everyone, but for qualified players, I have no idea what that means. There is a very special very special pack that you can get that will get you every single ship in the game. So take a wild guess how much this is. Wild.
All right. So it's a game. It's doing something stupid to get your money. I'm going to say $200.
How about
Oh no, I'm low.
Are you ready?
Oh God, I'm low.
What you are so low.
Oh
It
no.
is ridiculous how low it is. Let's see. 2 years ago, this pack was $35,000. This year, it is $40,000. Keep in mind, this is all for digital assets, nothing actually physical. $40,000.
Well, while we're on a did they do that? I was playing Rocket League a few days ago because that's what I do. And somebody had a specific boost in game. My teammate stopped playing because he wanted to spam and make sure the other guy knows that he likes his boost, that his boost is valuable, and that he would give him $500 for a boost trail in Rocket League. I'm sorry. No. I like it. It's a free to play game.
That's partially rent. That's bills,
Yeah, for a
food,
digital.
gas.
Oh, by the way, when you play Rocket League, you can't really see your boost the same way everybody else can. So you're paying $500 for somebody else to see something that you can't really enjoy. So did they really do that? Yes. All right, Joe. Final thought.
Okay, final thought actually is germane to football. This is from CBS Sports HQ. Russell Wilson this season has, are you ready for this? Can we get a drum roll? Fewer touchdown passes than Davis Mills.
Oh, who's going to be starting again?
Less pass yards than Jacoby Brissett.
Okay.
A lower completion percentage than Marcus Mariota, who was just benched. A worse QBR than Zach Wilson. Who is also benched. Fewer 300-yard games than Joe Flacco. Wacko for Flacco.
Played 2 games.
He's on the first year of a 5-year, $242 million deal. Good job, Denver. You have done well, and that is my final thought.
Broncos country. Let's ride. Or cry.
The ride, and then the ride. Insert appropriate meme here.
Yeah. My final thought. I'm gonna just quickly mention this because I mentioned the Brittany Griner thing. She was released from prison in a prisoner swap today. I'm not going into the politics of it because there's going to be people on both sides. So just following up on that, was released, coming home from Russian prison after 10 months. My final thought, though, is kudos to Marvel for doing the right thing in the new Black Panther movie in regards to Chadwick Boseman, actor who passed away about a year and a half ago, was the star of the original Black Panther, was, of course, T'Challa. Really, really nice way of doing things. So just a good shout out. I don't want to say anything about the movie itself. There's some really, really touching tributes. But I don't want to spoil anything for anybody because it's still in theaters, but very well done. Just a very nice way to provide service or give tribute to a man who was a very good person in this world, did a lot of good things outside of his work as an actor. And just a good job. Also, I thought it was one of the better movies they put out in a while. So also a good job to Marvel for bucking the trend of being disappointing. So just credit to them for doing a great tribute to Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace, of course. T'Challa, Black Panther.
The character T'Challa is just one of the biggest badasses, I think, in Marvel.
I'll say this movie is well, go see it for yourself. You'll see what I mean by there's some pretty cool stuff in this one. So that's the final thought. Also, reverse retro Sharks jersey. Finally, I had to buck the trend of the football jerseys while my Sharks are one of the worst teams in hockey. But yeah, had to upgrade the jersey game, had to show it off, just came in this week. So anywho, we'll be back either tomorrow or Saturday. We don't have a plan. Do I look like a man with a plan?
You're supposed to be like Hannibal Smith. You love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah. If everything goes according to the plan, even if the plan is horrible, everybody stays calm. But if the plan goes awry, everybody loses their minds. Joker.
Just don't try to get BA on a plane.
Yeah. So, I would think tomorrow, but we'll see. We'll do the rest of our picks and go over the rest of week 14.
Ryan is projecting tomorrow, but it depends upon what the HWRF Euro and GFS all say, right?
I
Since we're
mean,
both weather nerds.
yeah. I mean, GFS isn't the best, but yeah. I'm just glad hurricane season's over finally. Anyways, before we go on a weather rant or anything else, we go.